What if I told you the biggest enemy of your success is not the economy, not your background, not your competition, but a voice inside your own head? In America, we're taught that opportunity is everywhere. We're told this is the land of freedom, ambition, and big dreams. Yet millions of talented, capable people never rise to their full potential. Why? Because long before the world says no, they've already said it to themselves. That quiet whisper of doubt, I'm not ready, I'm not good enough, what if I fail, becomes the prison that keeps them small. Tonight, we're going to confront that voice. This is not just another motivational talk. This is a mental awakening. Because the truth is, negative thinking doesn't just steal your confidence, it steals your future. It drains your energy, weakens your decisions, and convinces you to settle for less than you deserve. And if you don't destroy it, it will quietly destroy your dreams. But here's the good news. The same mind that's been holding you back is the mind that can set you free. In this video, you're going to discover how to take control of your thoughts, silence fear, strengthen belief, and build an unshakable mindset. You'll learn how to turn self-doubt into self-discipline, fear into fuel, and obstacles into opportunities. This is about reclaiming your power. The power to choose your thoughts, shape your habits, and design your destiny. So stay with me until the very end, because what you're about to hear could change the way you see yourself forever. And once you change the way you see yourself, you change the way the world responds to you. It's time to kill your negative thinking and awaken the unstoppable force within you. The principle that thoughts become reality is not a poetic metaphor, it is a practical law of achievement. Every visible result in a person's life, whether success, failure, wealth, poverty, confidence, or insecurity, begins first as an invisible thought. The human mind acts as a command center, constantly issuing instructions to the subconscious, which then influences behavior, decisions, habits, and reactions. When a person consistently entertains negative thoughts such as doubt, fear, jealousy, or inadequacy, those thoughts slowly crystallize into beliefs. Once a belief is formed, it directs actions automatically. A person who repeatedly thinks I am not capable will unconsciously avoid challenges, hesitate in opportunities, and withdraw from competition, thereby producing results that appear to confirm the original thought. In this way, the mind creates a self-fulfilling cycle. On the other hand, when someone deliberately cultivates thoughts of confidence, capability, and determination, those thoughts strengthen belief, and belief shapes behavior aligned with success. The mind cannot distinguish sharply between vividly imagined limitations and actual ones. It responds to dominant thoughts as instructions. This is why repetition is so powerful. A single negative thought has little force, but repeated daily, it becomes a mental blueprint. Just as an architect's blueprint determines the structure of a building, dominant thoughts determine the structure of a life. Circumstances may appear external, yet responses to circumstances are internally driven by prior thinking patterns. Two individuals can face the same obstacle. One sees defeat, the other sees opportunity. The difference lies not in the event, but in the interpretation shaped by thought. Over time, consistent interpretation becomes character, and character influences destiny. The subconscious mind works tirelessly, seeking ways to transform prevailing thoughts into tangible experiences by guiding focus, perception, and effort toward evidence that matches those thoughts. If the dominant idea is failure, attention gravitates toward risks and weaknesses. If the dominant idea is success, attention gravitates toward solutions and possibilities. Therefore, managing thought is equivalent to managing future outcomes. Thought is the seed, belief is the root, action is the stem, and results are the fruit. By consciously selecting and reinforcing constructive, empowering thoughts, an individual begins to redesign internal programming, altering habits, strengthening persistence, and reshaping external results in measurable, practical ways. That faith over fear represents the deliberate choice to empower belief rather than surrender to anxiety, and this choice determines the direction of a person's life. Fear is a mental state born from uncertainty, imagination, and anticipation of negative outcomes. It magnifies obstacles, exaggerates risks, and weakens initiative before action even begins. Most limitations are not physical barriers, but mental constructions formed by repeated, fearful thinking. Fear of failure convinces a person not to try. Fear of criticism silences bold ideas, and fear of loss prevents necessary risk. When fear dominates the mind, it paralyzes decision-making and drains enthusiasm, creating hesitation that appears logical but is rooted in doubt. Faith, by contrast, is a state of confident expectation. It does not deny challenges, it simply refuses to let them define the outcome. Faith directs the imagination toward possibility instead of disaster and trains the mind to anticipate constructive results. Because the subconscious mind responds to dominant emotions, fear produces tension, confusion, and retreat, while faith produces clarity, courage, and persistence. The two emotions cannot occupy the mind with equal intensity at the same time. One must dominate. Developing faith requires intentional repetition of empowering thoughts, visualization of desired outcomes, and consistent affirmation of personal capability. When a person repeatedly tells himself that success is achievable and backs those statements with action, belief strengthens and fear weakens. Faith grows through evidence created by small victories, disciplined habits, and deliberate focus on strengths rather than weaknesses. It transforms setbacks into lessons instead of verdicts. The individual guided by faith interprets temporary defeat as instruction, not identity. This mental stance fuels resilience because belief in eventual success sustains effort through difficulty. Fear isolates and shrinks ambition. Faith expands vision and energizes determination. The quality of decisions improves when guided by belief rather than anxiety, because clear thinking replaces emotional reaction. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it, anchored by faith in a favorable outcome. As faith becomes the dominant emotional state, it conditions the subconscious to seek opportunities, notice resources, and maintain composure under pressure. Over time, this consistent preference for belief over fear reshapes character, strengthens confidence, and directs life toward purposeful achievement rather than cautious stagnation. Definiteness of purpose is the mental clarity that transforms scattered effort into concentrated power. When a person lacks a clearly defined objective, the mind drifts, energy disperses, and decisions become inconsistent. Uncertainty breeds doubt, and doubt feeds negative thinking because the individual has no fixed target to measure progress against. A definite purpose acts as a compass, directing thoughts, choices, and actions toward a specific destination. Instead of reacting randomly to circumstances, the individual evaluates every opportunity, challenge, or distraction in light of a central aim. This clarity reduces confusion and strengthens confidence because the mind functions best when it operates with direction. When you know exactly what you want, you unconsciously begin to recognize resources, connections, and ideas that align with that desire. The subconscious mind becomes organized around that dominant objective, filtering information according to its relevance to your goal. Without such focus, external opinions, temporary setbacks, and emotional impulses easily alter direction, causing inconsistency and frustration. A clear purpose also strengthens persistence, because obstacles lose their power to discourage when they are viewed as temporary barriers rather than permanent roadblocks. The individual with a defined aim interprets difficulty as part of the journey instead of as a signal to quit. Purpose gives meaning to discipline, turning sacrifice into investment rather than loss. It converts routine work into intentional progress. Moreover, definiteness of purpose reduces fear, since indecision often intensifies anxiety. When choices are guided by a firm objective, hesitation decreases and action becomes more decisive. This decisiveness builds momentum, and momentum builds belief. Over time, repeated actions aligned with a single aim form habits that support achievement. The mind begins to operate with efficiency because it is not constantly reevaluating direction. Emotional energy is conserved and applied strategically. Even criticism or failure becomes useful feedback rather than discouragement, as each experience can be measured against the intended outcome. A person with a definite purpose wakes with intention and rests with reflection, consistently aligning thought with ambition. This alignment between desire, belief, and action creates internal harmony, which weakens negative thinking and strengthens constructive imagination. Clarity of purpose therefore becomes both shield and sword, protecting the mind from doubt while cutting a direct path toward accomplishment. Self-suggestion and inner dialogue form the silent architecture of belief, shaping identity through repeated mental instruction. Every individual maintains a continuous internal conversation, whether consciously directed or left to habit, and this dialogue gradually programs the subconscious mind. The subconscious does not argue, analyze, or reject ideas based on logic alone. It accepts repeated statements infused with emotion as instructions and works steadily to transform them into attitudes and behaviors. When a person constantly repeats phrases such as, "I am unlucky," "I am not talented," or "I never succeed," these statements settle beneath conscious awareness and begin influencing decisions, confidence, and performance. Over time, the mind seeks evidence to support these internal declarations, reinforcing the belief system that produced them. In contrast, deliberate self-suggestion involves intentionally selecting constructive, empowering statements and repeating them with conviction until they form a new mental pattern. This is not empty wishful thinking, but disciplined mental conditioning. By affirming capability, resilience, and purpose, the individual implants thoughts that gradually replace doubt and hesitation. Emotion plays a crucial role in this process because feelings intensify impressions on the subconscious. Words spoken with enthusiasm, belief, and repetition gain strength, while casual statements fade quickly. Visualization enhances self-suggestion by allowing the mind to experience imagined success vividly, making it feel attainable and familiar. The brain responds to vivid mental rehearsal in ways similar to actual experience, strengthening confidence and preparedness. Consistency is essential, since scattered positive thoughts cannot outweigh years of habitual negativity. Repetition builds momentum, and momentum reshapes belief. As inner dialogue becomes more supportive and disciplined, external behavior begins to change. The individual takes initiative more readily, persists longer in difficulty, and interprets setbacks with less emotional defeat. Gradually, identity shifts from limitation to capability. The most powerful influence on character is not occasional praise or criticism from others, but the steady stream of private words spoken within. Guarding this internal speech becomes a daily responsibility because SS negativity undermines progress, while intentional positivity strengthens it. Through conscious self-suggestion, the mind becomes an ally rather than an adversary, reinforcing ambition, sharpening focus, and guiding action in harmony with chosen goals rather than inherited doubts. Mastering emotional control is the disciplined ability to govern reactions so that feelings serve reason instead of overpowering it. Emotions are powerful forces that can either energize constructive action or distort judgment, depending on how they are managed. When negativity arises through anger, jealousy, frustration, or disappointment, it often clouds perception and magnifies problems beyond their true size. A person who reacts impulsively to setbacks may speak carelessly, abandon worthwhile efforts, or make decisions driven by temporary pain rather than long-term vision. Such reactions create consequences that reinforce further negativity, forming a cycle of emotional instability. Emotional mastery does not mean suppressing feelings or pretending they do not exist. It means recognizing them, understanding their source, and choosing a measured response instead of surrendering to impulse. This pause between stimulus and response is the space where character is formed. In that moment, the individual can decide whether to interpret a challenge as an insult or as instruction, as defeat or as development. Negative thinking often feeds on unchecked emotion, especially fear and resentment, but when emotions are examined calmly, their intensity weakens and clarity returns. Discipline over emotion strengthens decision-making because choices become aligned with purpose rather than mood. A temporary failure then becomes data for improvement instead of proof of inadequacy. Criticism becomes information rather than personal attack. Emotional control also preserves energy, since uncontrolled reactions drain mental focus and reduce productivity. When emotions are balanced, the mind remains steady under pressure, enabling persistence through difficulty. This steadiness inspires confidence both internally and externally, because others respond positively to composure and reliability. Furthermore, emotional mastery enhances self-respect, as each controlled response reinforces the belief that one is capable of directing life, rather than being directed by circumstance. Habits of reflection, deliberate breathing, thoughtful analysis, and constructive interpretation gradually strengthen this control. Over time, emotional maturity transforms obstacles into opportunities for growth and refines resilience. The individual who governs emotions effectively prevents negativity from taking root, because reactions are filtered through awareness and purpose. By choosing thoughtful responses over impulsive reactions, the mind maintains stability, protects ambition, and channels emotional energy into productive achievement rather than destructive thought patterns. Environment and association exert a silent yet powerful influence over the direction of thought, shaping beliefs through constant exposure and repetition. The human mind absorbs ideas, attitudes, and expectations from surroundings, much like fertile soil absorbs whatever seeds are planted within it. When a person consistently interacts with individuals who speak in terms of limitation, doubt, criticism, and fear, those patterns gradually become familiar and accepted as normal, even without conscious agreement. Repeated exposure to pessimistic conversations can lower ambition, weaken confidence, and reinforce negative thinking. Conversely, association with individuals who demonstrate optimism, discipline, and purposeful action encourages similar mental habits. The mind naturally aligns itself with prevailing influences in its environment, adopting language, standards, and expectations that dominate daily interaction. This is why selecting associations carefully becomes an essential act of self-leadership. Beyond people, environment includes the information one consumes, the media one watches, the books one reads, and the digital conversations one engages in. Constant consumption of discouraging or divisive content trains the mind to focus on problems and threats, whereas exposure to constructive knowledge and empowering ideas expands perspective and stimulates growth. The subconscious does not sharply distinguish between deliberate instruction and casual exposure. It records repeated impressions and integrates them into belief systems. Therefore, protecting mental space is as important as protecting physical health. Positive associations do not eliminate challenges, but they provide encouragement, accountability, and models of resilience that make obstacles seem manageable. When surrounded by driven individuals, higher standards become contagious, pushing personal performance upward. In contrast, negative associations normalize excuses and reinforce complacency. Environment also affects emotional climate. Supportive surroundings reduce stress and defensiveness, allowing creativity and confidence to flourish. By intentionally designing surroundings that align with personal goals, an individual strengthens constructive thinking and weakens internal resistance. Over time, consistent exposure to empowering influences reshapes expectations and expands vision. While distancing from destructive influences preserves clarity and ambition, the deliberate choice of environment acts as a filter that determines which ideas are permitted to take root, ensuring that dominant thoughts are aligned with growth rather than limitation, and creating conditions where confidence, discipline, and purposeful action can develop naturally and sustainably. As we bring this message to a close, remember that negative thinking is not an unchangeable trait. It is a habit, and every habit can be replaced. Your thoughts are not accidental visitors, they are choices. When you understand that your mind is the starting point of every result you experience, you reclaim your power. By choosing faith over fear, defining your purpose with clarity, directing your inner dialogue with intention, mastering your emotions, and shaping your environment wisely, you begin to redesign the very foundation of your life. The transformation does not occur in a single dramatic moment. It unfolds through daily discipline, conscious awareness, and repeated constructive thinking. Each time you silence doubt and replace it with belief, you weaken negativity's grip. Each time you respond with control instead of impulse, you strengthen your character. Each time you choose empowering associations over discouraging ones, you elevate your standards. Over time, these small mental victories compound into extraordinary external results. The mind you control today becomes the destiny you experience tomorrow. Stand firm in your decision to eliminate destructive thoughts and nurture empowering ones, and you will discover strength you did not know you possessed. I wish you courage to think boldly, discipline to stay consistent, and confidence to pursue your highest vision. May success meet your determination, and may every setback refine rather than define you. Good luck on your journey toward mastering your mind and shaping your future. Thank you for your time, your attention, and your commitment to growth.